tell you is I had the opportunity to raise 4 amazing boys. They kept me busy all the time. They still do. They're a ton of fun. And that is one of the favorite hats that I've got to wear in my life. She listed off a few, but I've worn a ton of different hats. Being a mom is pretty darn amazing, but it got topped a couple years ago. It got topped with this little monster. I got to put the grandma hat on. This is Harlow. He is full of so much energy. When Kimberly was talking, if Harlow were in her setting, she would get nothing done because he is bouncing off the walls all the time, always coming in with a different costume on. So he'll walk and he'll come running in the door and he'll say, Grandma! And I'll say, what are you doing? He goes, I'm Spider-Man. And he starts to shoot you with the webs. Or he'll come in and he'll be Captain American up and he'll say, what are you doing? And he'll go, ting, ting, ting. Because of course Captain America is protecting himself with the shield. And when he binds you, you can't get out of anything until he brings out the Thor sword. And then he comes and lets you free of the Spider-Man webs. It is so much fun. He is a blast. Now, it kind of reminds me back in the days of Amy Cuddy. If anybody remembers, she was like late 90s, early 2000s. She produced this book that was all about the power poses. Does anybody remember? If you stand in a power pose for 2 minutes, then things happen in your brain. Your cortisol level starts to change, which decreases your stress. Your brain gets this extra boost of dopamine that you actually don't know where it came from. She had all kinds of amazing power poses. I love it. So, to get us started, guess what we're gonna do? I bet you can't guess. Everybody up and out of your seats. Now, here's the deal. You can choose one of Harlow's poses if you would like, but this is super important. As a grandma, I know how important this is. There is a huge difference between Batman and Superman, and I don't want anyone to mess it up. This is Superman, and this is Batman, okay? All right, okay. So on the count of 3, we're gonna go ahead and get into one of our poses. Ready? 1, 2, 3. You can pick whichever pose you want. There is no judgment. Nobody's looking at anyone. And actually what we have learned over time is if you're in a power pose and you start to move a little bit, you start to get a little bit more energy. It starts to make a difference. Doesn't matter, but what you're doing is you're opening up the energy of your life. All right, go ahead and take a seat. Now, I don't know if Amy Cuddy's study was actually accurate, but what I do know is I saw all of your faces change. From up here, I wish you guys could see it, because immediately your smiles started to come on. Your energy level went. What did we hear? Chitter, chatter, chitter, chatter, because everybody started to get really excited. It was a lot of fun. We know that we have already released your inner superpower with one little trick, and you can do that anywhere. In the back seat of your car, with your hand over the back, you're opening up your space so that when you go home to your partner and your little ones, you're in a better mood. It automatically opens you up. I actually grew up in small town Iowa, probably like a lot of you. My town was in the middle of Iowa. It made up of 300 people if you counted the cats and dogs. It was very small. And in my world, I was constantly full of energy. Someone would ask me when I was a little one, what do you want to be when you grow up? And of course, what do you think I said? Wonder Woman. And then the next thing would be, what do you want to be? And I wanted to join the circus. I wanted to do all the things that got me super excited. And let me tell you, I told everyone, all 300 people in that community knew what Lindsay wanted to be on that particular day. It was exciting. And then all of a sudden, I started to get into my teen years, and I realized, wait a minute, I actually need money to do stuff? Who said that was a thing? So like any good Iowa girl, I started detasseling and growing corn, right? It is the worst job in the world. There's no beautiful fingernails when you're detasseling corn, people. It's horrible. But when I did it, I was bouncing down the aisles. I was singing at the top of my lungs. We were doing ripple effects with the wave with the corn stalks. I'm not exactly sure how many tassels actually got pulled, but I was on a mission. Because in my day, I wanted the coolest pair of blue jeans that were out there. They were freaking amazing. They had a little triangle on their tush. Anybody know what they were? Guess blue jeans. You guessed it. It was right here. It was amazing. Now, for you younger girls, it's in the vintage store down the street, okay? You can go pick them up there and see what they were. But I realized at that point in time, I need to be able to make money to get the things that I wanted. And so slowly, all those dreams of tight walking and fighting off lions started to dim in the background. And my spark was slowly going out. And then you enter into high school, and they start asking you the same question that we asked the 4-year-olds. What are you going to be when you grow up? And all of a sudden it changes from all of those exciting things into whatever you were good at in school. Because that's what society trained us on. Well, guess what I was good at? Talking. I wasn't great at a lot of the other subjects, but I was pretty darn good in math. So they said, you talk all the time and you're good in math, you should go into business management. I was like, all right, I can do that. I was really smart though. I went to a liberal arts school that allowed me to take 2/3 of my classes in debate and speech and art. And that's the only way that I actually passed through business management. This was what it was. So I kept moving down this path that society has created for all of us, for me and for you. I moved down the path where I graduated from college, and I had this business management degree, so I went into the job that I had the degree in. Got my first job and thought, all right, here we go. Did pretty good at it, did the next job, got a promotion. Kept going until all of a sudden I'm a senior vice president at a Fortune 100 company. From the outside, it looked amazing. I've got this great family, they're all in sports, we're traveling all the time, we've been all over the world, I've got hundreds of people reporting to me, I'm mentoring people, I'm on stage. People from the outside think that everything's amazing. And it was. I loved my job. I loved the people that I was working with. But somewhere deep down, I knew that there was something else. I don't know if you've ever felt that way, but it's in your nowhere where you're like, I'm just tired of being frustrated. I need to figure out how to get my energy back. I need some confidence in my life again, and I actually want to try something new. And by the time I started realizing that, I started all this talk in my brain like, what the heck is going on with you, woman? You're a high achiever. You're driven. This doesn't happen to people like you. In your position, people don't talk like that. They're proud of what they've gotten. But for some reason, I knew that there was something else. It was out there, and I needed to figure out how to go for it. So what did I do? I put on my learner hat, and I said, I'm going to figure this out. I'm going to read every book, and I'm going to talk to hundreds of people, and I'm going to figure out what it is that's missing. So I started to do all the education and the knowledge, and guess what? I'm not the only one. 60% of Americans are burnt out, stressed out, frustrated with their job, and they have no idea what to do next. It's crazy that this is the society that we live in right now. But this is what it is. I don't know, I'm not going to call anyone out. But do you know anyone who's been in that situation? Raise your hand if you know anyone does. Right. So how do we get out of it? How do we make a difference? What do we do? Well, as I read all this information, which is one of my superpowers, taking a lot of information and figuring out how do we boil it down, it actually became pretty easy to look at. It's a simple formula. It's understanding our values. Now, I'm not talking about, if I asked any of you right now what your values are, 90% of you will say something like family, friends, faith. 90%. It's not that, and I know those are our values, but we actually have to go deeper into what those mean. Because those words are great words, but what does that actually mean to you? I'm a mom of 4, and I'm a better mom when I work. I'm a mom of 4, and I'm a better mom when I go and have a cocktail with my girlfriends on a Thursday night. Because I know where that values. One of my values, and this is actually my word of the year, is experience. That is a big value for me. That means when I walk into a room or a setting, I'm fully experiencing and diving into what it is. If I'm traveling, I'm going to experience that culture. I'm going to talk to those people and get to know them. So understanding what your values are. But the heart of the equation is your superpowers, which is really figuring out your authentic self. What makes you the best version of yourself? And we're going to spend a lot of time today talking about that. You actually can't get to the last piece of the equation until you figured the first two out. You can't set your non-negotiable boundaries until you know who your authentic self is and what's most important to you. Now, this is crazy. Today, we have about 125 people in the room. And so if I divide that out, maybe, let's look. These first three rows are equivalent to the number of people that can identify their strengths and the number of people that are actually using them every day. Only 1 in 5 of us can identify them and actually use them. It's kind of like, most of you brought a backpack or a purse today. Some of you brought both because you're super prepared. And in your purse, you've got all of the stuff that you need to thrive. So you've got your chapstick. If you're me, you've got your close-up glasses and your far-away glasses. You probably got a pen and some paper. You brought your business cards. Heaven forbid that a nail break. We've got files in there. We literally have everything in our bag to help us thrive for the day, right? Well, guess what? All of your superpowers are inside of you. All of them. They're there. You just actually don't know what they are. You haven't pulled them out and identified them. So just like your purse, you're only taking one thing out. Maybe it's your pen, and the rest of it stays zipped away. Inside of you, you've got all those superpowers just waiting to bubble out and be used. We want to make sure that we know how to identify them, and then we know how to amplify them. Now, no one ever comes to me and says, Lindsay, can you help me find my strengths? That's not something that we ask other people, ever. But what they do come to me and say is, Lindsay, I want to get my confidence back. Lindsay, I just don't feel like I'm engaged in my life anymore, let alone at work, in anything around me. You see, when you are actually living and working in your superpowers, things start to change. Think about it. Something maybe that somebody recently came up and thanked you for. That's probably one of your superpowers. If you were doing that thing every day, all of a sudden, you start to feel really confident in the things that you're doing. Because you know you're doing it, and you're doing it damn good. You are really good at your strengths. So you get excited about doing it, which changes this trigger in your brain. We all allow ourselves all of this negative self-talk all the time. But when you do something that you're really good in, it shoves that negativity aside and creates a positivity folder. So instead of questioning our abilities, we start to get excited knowing, hey, I'm doing a good job. I can do this really well. I want to do more of this. How do I create that ripple effect in the world? It helps us to change our mental well-being. Now, when we change our mental well-being, we start to get more excited about what we're doing, which means we're creating more motivation and more energy to keep us moving forward. That momentum overall, believe it or not, statistics show us when you are identifying and using your superpowers every single day, your engagement in life increases by 600%. I'm not talking about work, and I'm not talking about just at home. I'm talking about everything. When you go to the grocery store, your engagement increases. When you're doing your tasks at home, your engagement increases. In your entire life, when you're using your superpowers more often. The statistics are crazy. Okay, before we go any further, I told the Urbandale Chamber gals that I would make sure that you had action to take home with you. So I actually created a playbook for you because a lot of this stuff is homework oriented. For you to actually transform and do things, you need to be equipped with the materials that you need to move forward. So this is a playbook to be able to help you get the information that you need and walk through it step by step. Inside of there, there's another free gift. So this is one, there's another one, you can dig it out if you want to. Now before we go any further, we do need to tell you what the definition of a strength is. Does anybody know what the definition of a strength is? Come on, I know you ladies ain't shy. What's the definition of a strength?
Something you're good at.
Something you're good at. Awesome. Anybody else?
Something that comes naturally.
Oh, something that comes, yes, good.
Power.
Power.
Something
Oh my gosh, you guys are nailing it. There's four elements to the definition of a strength, and you guys got almost all of them. The first one is something you're good at. Because we know that when we're doing something we're good at, it's probably a strength. Now here's the deal. You only need to be 1% better at it than the people that you're around. You don't need to be the top of the line. If I play basketball, I don't need to be Michael Jordan, but I need to be 1% better than everyone else around me. Now the piece that everybody misses is the second piece to that. Something you're good at or something you have the potential to be good at. We all wake up as a baby. We don't actually come into this world knowing how to do anything. But somewhere in our mind, we think that, well, if it's a superpower, we should know everything about it and be complete experts. But reality is that it's something that we have the potential to be good at. That means you could find a new superpower at any age. You could be 10, 20, you could be 50, 60, or 70. I just went on a trip to Barcelona and found a brand new superpower that I can't wait to adventurate on. Those strengths are out there waiting for you. The third piece of it is that it actually lights you up. So she said it. It gives you energy. You get excited. You can't wait to use those skills and create an effect in the world. Which brings you to the fourth piece of it, and that is it has to be something that's serving the rest of the world. Now, I have people tell me things like, well, Lindsay, my superpower is that I'm detail-oriented, and so that doesn't help anyone else. Well, guess what? If you're detailed-oriented in the office, maybe you're a project manager, and you're doing IT work, and so you're working on systems, those systems then give people the processes to be able to produce the product that what is impacting the customer. You just got to be able to know what the end result is to see how your superpowers are impacting everyone around you, because all of them are. So it's something you're good at, something you have the potential to be good at, something that gives you energy, and something that serves the world, right? So if we know all of this information, why the heck aren't we all using our superpowers every day? Why aren't we all out there going, this is what I'm great at, this is what I want to do? We try, right? A lot of companies offer great assessments. These are two that I actually offer in my organization. So we can respond based on that. I'm a high D. Is that a shock to anybody? I know. On the Strength Finders, I'm strategic, activator, communicator, relator, and maximizer. I can tell you what those words are. I'm an Enneagram 8, 7, and 3, pretty equally. But what it doesn't tell you is what my actual superpower really is. If I take strategy, for example, when I do strategy, there's no butts in seats. There's no tables. There's not even chairs in the room. I go into companies all the time and do strategic planning for 1, 3, 5 years out. And it's a room full of paper and sticky notes and pens. And we have a complete blast looking at what the future of that company is going to be. I have a friend that is a partner in crime, and she does strategic planning and is very high. And she loves to dig into the numbers. She looks at the industry numbers. She looks at the background. She really dives in. She does strategic planning from a numbers perspective. So that word can mean something completely different depending on who you are. So we really want to get into the real world. Like, how are we really going to use these? Because those surface level things, they just don't give us enough information to know who our authentic core self is. And that's where we want to get to. But here's the problem. You're actually completely blind to your superpowers. You don't know what they are. We already said 80% of people have no clue what their superpowers are. It comes so naturally to us. I don't remember who said that. It comes so naturally to us that we don't realize it. We're not aware of our surroundings and the things that are happening all around us to pay attention to our own superpowers. It's actually quite sad. So to figure out what they are, we have to do something crazy. When you want something, what's the number one thing that you should do? Ask for it. You gotta go ask the experts. Okay, a lot of you have notebooks out. I want you to pick up your pens. And if you don't, you can mentally record this. I'm going to say a title, and I want you to write down a name. Are you ready? your boss or your leader, your best friend, someone who recently worked, and if it's the same person, it's okay. Someone who recently worked on a project with you. Could be a project at work, could be a nonprofit thing you volunteered on. It could be anything, but somebody who worked on a project with you. Someone that runs in your tribe that just keeps showing up all the time. Okay, so you've got a great start. That's 4 names that are experts in the things that you shine on, the things that you don't notice. Now, in your playbook, I'm going to ask you to make a list of 10 of them. So if you have more names, write them down because you need to have 10. Now, here's what you're going to do. You're going to go to that person and you're going to ask them a question. Now, this question is really specific, and I want to make sure that you understand why. Because if I went up and I said, "Hey, Kimberly, can you tell me what my strengths are?" Guess what Kimberly's going to do? Oh, crap. What does Lindsay want to hear? I don't want to tell her the wrong thing. I don't want to hurt her feelings. Always, what's the safest word that I can come up with? That's what's going to happen, because that's just what our analytical brains do. We don't want to hurt anyone's feelings, and we want to tell them exactly what they want to hear, right? So what we're going to do is we're going to say, "Can you please describe a time when you saw me at my best?" Now, when you do this, they're going to start thinking of a story. They're going to think of a situation that they actually saw you shine in. When I usually say this, the friends look at each other and they go, "I know what I'm going to tell you," because they're the expert on your superpowers. Now, I ask people this question all the time, because we already talked about our superpowers change, right? So you can't ask, this isn't a once and done question. You have to keep asking. And I asked someone recently, and they said, "Oh my gosh, when you planned your son's wedding, you were on fire." And they said, "We came into that event, everything was lit up. This was an outdoor wedding. They said you had candles so that we had the feeling, we had all of our senses, the lights, our smells, everything was going. And then it opens up into your backyard, and it's this absolutely a beautiful view that has created all these places for connection." And as I listen to it, as you listen when you ask the question, you're thinking about the skills that you used, right? Well, I'm good at thinking about an event from a client's perspective or a participant's perspective. I'm great at vendor negotiation because it took a lot of negotiation to put that bad boy together. Hats off to all the events coordinators out there. I'm great at figuring out what the core meaning and reason is to make sure that that ambience goes everywhere. So you start to really pull the lists out of those stories. Now, when I tell people you're going to go ask this question, people start to get pitter-patter hearts. Now, you can get creative. We are in the tech world, so if you need to create a Google form, do it. But ladies, come on. We all know how to have a glass of coffee or a glass of wine with someone and enjoy it. So when you sit down, if you're nervous, the absolute best thing that you can do is grab an index card and be prepared with their superpower. You know them just like they knew you. So go ahead and write down what their strengths and superpowers are so that you can just repeat it back when you're done. "Hey, I'm actually doing this because this crazy woman stood on stage and told me that I had to. And so I'm trying to discover my strengths. And I learned I don't know what they are. That's why I asked you that question. And now I want to make sure that you know what yours are." What a gift. How do we feel when someone says, "Hey, you are amazing at"? We feel fantastic. So give that gift back to them when you go and share what that is. Now, when you're having this conversation, first of all, you need to expect to be surprised because you don't know what they're going to tell you, and then your mind is going to start playing tricks on you. It's going to start saying things like, "Well, I don't want to compare myself. I mean, I can bake a good cookie, but I'm definitely no Martha Stewart. I can organize things, but, I'm no Tony Robbins who can pull it all together in a heartbeat." Guess what? We don't have to be the top of the line. We only have to be a couple % better than the people that are around us. So stop comparing yourself. It's not healthy. We also get this mind babble going on where we think, yeah, well, it just comes naturally. I didn't actually work at it, so I don't want to take credit for it. I didn't really do anything. It's just something that I do. Well, guess what? You're amazing at it, so be proud. We have this false perception that if we accept our superpower, we're arrogant, or we're bold, we're bossy, or I just lost my word. Whatever that is, but you're not arrogant. You're owning it. So you just have to listen and say thank you to what they tell you. You really don't need to do anything else with it. If you all stop and you pause and you think about, what's the last compliment someone gave you? Or what's the last thing that they thanked you for? Or what are people always coming to you for help with? You automatically know what some of your superpowers are. They're not hidden from you. This isn't a needle in a haystack exercise. This is actually you just paying attention to the world around you and figuring out how to actually identify them so that you can live your full, true, authentic life. You can be the best version of yourself. Unfortunately, we're in this go, 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 go society. All of you are thinking about the 100 emails that you have waiting. You're worried about the meetings that you're missing. Your text messages are piling in. When you go home, the kids and the dogs want to eat every single day. I don't understand what's up with that. But it happens all the time, right? And then we think about all the other activities that are happening. So we just don't take the time to really pause and reflect on who we are, who we want to be, and how we can be that best version of ourselves. So in your playbook, you're going to find a whole lot of questions for you to ask yourself. Now, I am going to be Miss Bossy Pants, and I'm going to tell you how to do this. The first thing you're going to do is schedule 60 minutes with yourself on your calendar. You deserve it. You deserve it. You deserve this time. All of you deserve 60 minutes to pause and reflect on yourself. You're going to pull your playbook out, and you're going to pull your notebook out. You're going to grab your fuzzy blanket and your favorite drink. So maybe it's a coffee from outside. Maybe it's a tea. Maybe it's like me, and I like a glass of grapes. And you're going to pull all that stuff together, okay? And you're going to take this to your favorite location. I love to go on my back deck when I'm doing thought work. So wherever that is, the coffee shop, your living room, outside on your back deck, it's a beautiful day, wherever that is. Now here's why I'm telling you 60 minutes. It takes you 30 minutes to get past the chaos coordinator in your mind. It takes you 30 minutes to turn off the mind babble. And it isn't until about the 40th item that you actually start to go deep and stop telling surface level things to yourself. So you've got to dedicate that time to really dive in to who you are and what you want to be. Now there's a whole list of questions because some of you are going to read them and you're going to go, that was dumb. I don't have an answer. Skip it. Just skip it. Nobody can tell that you did. And then you're going to get to the next one and you're going to go, oh my gosh, I have so much to write down for this one. Great, keep writing. If the 60 minutes isn't up, do the list again. Come up with your own questions. The idea is really to pause and look internally to yourself so that you can tell what your superpowers are. Now, you have to realize that your greatest superpower can also be perceived as your greatest weakness. I got to tell you, when I took one of my very first director roles in the corporate world and got to my performance review and I thought I was crushing it, and this is kind of how my performance review went. Lindsay, you ask too many questions. People think that you don't trust them. Stop that. Lindsay, you are too bold. You need to tame your personality and kind of sit it in the corner. Lindsay, you always have a solution. You need to stop doing that and let other people do their jobs. And I was like, oh my gosh. So I took all that information and I put it in this folder in my mind. This is what your little reticular activating system does. It organizes all of these folders. So immediately I said, put it over here. This is bad. Red, flashing, beeping light. Never do that again, right? And I went month after month after month, and guess what? I was miserable. I was not my authentic self. But because this person had told me this, I assumed that these were weaknesses in my personality traits. Somewhere along the line, I made a decision that said basically, I'm not supposed to say this on stage, but screw you! It is not a bad thing. And I transitioned them over to the folder with the green flashing light that said figure out how to use it and use them better. Let's do that. So my last performance review in the corporate world went something like this. Lindsay, all the questions that you ask, make sure that we are moving in the right direction. Lindsay, your boldness attracts clients. They are confident in the direction that we're moving. Lindsay, the air about you just attracts team members. That's why we have 0 retention problems. I took those and put those in the flashing green light and decided to start using them. Now for you, it could have been a joke that somebody made when you were a teenager. Could have been a comment that a teacher made. If you were like me, it was the music director that said, you don't know how to sing. Let me tell you, ladies, I bellow it at church. You should come and sit in front of me. Because they don't get to decide what our superpowers are. We do. We get to choose the things that light us up and that we have the potential to be good at. So I want everyone to take those folders in your mind, and I want you just to turn off all the lights. I want you to pretend like they're not even there, because when you go do this playbook, you need to make those decisions. Don't let someone else tell you what those decisions are. Now, when you get this information, you're actually going to start to pull the 2 pieces together. So you've asked these 10 or 20 people, and you've done your self-reflection. Now you're going to start to look for themes. And the themes aren't going to be obvious at the beginning, but then you're going to start to realize things like, hey, I'm a connector. I'm pretty good at connecting people. Hey, I like to organize stuff, but where do I like to organize it? Do you like to organize it in processes at work, or do you like to organize home spaces so that people can live better and be more functional? What are the details of that superpower so that we can actually figure out how to go out and start using it more? As you come up with this theme list, now all of a sudden you're ready to start thinking about how do I amplify it? When you want to amplify, you're actually going to do 3 pieces. First, you're going to figure out, how do I use it all the time? How do I make sure that I'm using it every day in everything that I'm doing? Well, you can't figure that out if you don't know what they are. That's why the first couple steps are so important. When you figure out what they are, then all of a sudden your brain moves that to the forefront of your mind, and things start to come naturally to you. You start to organize that to see what you're doing. I know a guy who was a combat medic on the military side. Amazing at it, very great at it. And on the civilian side, he was an electrician, and he was miserable. He hated it. And he did that 75% of his time because he was only at the National Guard 1 weekend a month. So he was miserable here and happy here. And we sat down and said, well, what's making you happy? I love to be able to serve other people. People tell me all the time that I have this calming effect about me. So when it's urgent or it's an emergency, I figure out how I can tame that for them. Okay, how can we do more of that? Now in his situation, he quit electrical work and went into an ambulance crew full time. He loves it. He came to me recently and said, Lindsay, guess what? I am one of the 20%. I know my superpowers, and I'm using them every day. And his world has turned around. Everything has changed. Now, for you and I, we're not going to go quit our jobs more than likely, but you need to know when you identify what those are, the opportunities are around you. You just have to figure out how to go after them. In our situation, part of going after them is communicating them. We have to tell people. In the 90s, there was this assumption that the harder you worked, people noticed, right? If I work really hard, I'll get noticed, then I'll get a perception. Unfortunately, people still think that way, and that is not true. That is a myth, and probably the #1 thing that I work with ladies on in coaching. Stop thinking like you're living in the 80s and 90s, because you're not. You need to tell your leader. You need to tell your friends. You need to tell the boards of nonprofits that you love to work with. You need to tell everyone what your superpowers are. Now, it doesn't look like this. Hey, guess what? I'm really good at organizing things. It's not like that. When you sit down with your leader, it's more about, hey, I've been doing a lot of development work. Because who has a development plan that they're accountable for at work? Everybody. I've been doing a lot of development work, and what I have figured out is I am amazing at being very detail-oriented and making sure that I'm capturing all the corners of any project or activity that we're working on. And as you put that information together, I want you to help me figure out, how can I use this more? When cool projects come up, I want you to think of me. Because guess what you did? It wasn't here for him. It was here for you, but it wasn't here for him. So you just moved it all the way to the front. When you tell your friends, they start to go, oh my gosh, you need to call Lindsay Mulder because she loves this. She loves to empower people, go talk to her. It moves it to the front for them. So whatever you're doing, start sharing it with everyone. Now I'm gonna be here the rest of the day, so I would love for all of you to tell me what your superpowers are, because I meet all kinds of people all the time and would love to connect you. The last piece of the formula is that you have to keep developing it and growing it. We talked about we're all born the same. Internally, though, we have different talents, but we have to keep growing and developing them. We love Caitlin Clark in Iowa, right? She has made a huge difference for women's sports. She is doing some amazing things. She's giving back to the community. I mean, the things she's doing are outstanding. Caitlin, in her teenage years, figured out, I love basketball, and I'm pretty darn good at it. But she didn't just stop there. She kept practicing. She got different coaches. She kept learning. She kept growing. She kept expanding on what her superpowers were so that she could learn even more. That's where coaching, mentoring, podcasts, books, seeking wisdom from people around you. When you go have coffee, find people to have coffee with that share your superpower and ask them how they're using it. Learn from each other. That's what this community is all about. It's pretty darn cool. We had the opportunity a second ago to hear from a great organization, the Iowa Army of Pink. And I got to sit down with Bridget beforehand and talk to her and just hear her story. What an amazing story, right? She is in the hardest part of her life, struggling through all kinds of treatments, and she figures out that, hey, I am a knowledge seeker, and I want to figure out how to put this to use. I don't believe she shared that she was a teacher, she had medical knowledge in the past, but and sorry I didn't tell you I was going to do this, but pretty amazing, right? Her superpower is figuring out how to gather that information and give it to us so that we can take action with it. It doesn't matter what age, it's the information that we need. And out of that conversation, she also said, I'm pretty persistent. You could tell in the things that she's doing that persistent is at the top of her list, right? She did share, I have the gift of gab. Now, a lot of us share this one, and that's amazing, because when you can go out and tell the story to people and be able to reiterate and communicate that, your passions come to the forefront. So whatever role you're in today, whatever situation you're in, it could just be the training ground for your next opportunity. It could be the future that's going to use the superpowers that you're learning and developing and growing today. You can tell just from what they shared, they're not stopping with just those 3 superpowers. They keep developing so that they can make it better for all of us. Pretty darn amazing. So I want you to be diligent, adventurate, explore. Make sure that you're figuring out how to unleash your own superpowers. I love how Mark Twain said, there's 2 most important days in your whole life. The day that you were born and the day that you figured out why. Well, if you think about the rest of the formula, the 3rd most important day is the day that you figure out how to unleash your superpowers and put them to action. So go get it, ladies. You've got this.
Wow, Lindsay, thank you so much. That was incredible. I just